Good evening, everyone. You're very welcome to the launch of the Civil Engineering Apprenticeship with Queen's University Belfast. Very excited to explore this new higher level apprenticeship this evening. Thank you so much for being part of this today. My name is Richard Kirk. I'm the founder of WorkPlus. We work with organisations and learning providers across Northern Ireland to help change how our culture views apprenticeships. And it's very exciting that we have a brand new apprenticeship programme on offer this year for a start in September 2023. I'm joined this evening by Dr. Danny McPollan, the Director of Civil Engineering at Queen's University Belfast, and his colleague Sri Nanakutan. Sri is the Programme Director for this HLA. Also joined by Serena Gildea, an Associate at Design ID, an employer who has experience of bringing apprentices into their business, and also by Jen Hopkins. Jen is Membership Development Officer with ICE, and Jen will talk in more detail about how apprentices can gain professional qualifications that are internationally recognised. So that's our panel. As we start, I'd like to hear a little bit from Danny and Sri. You've been masterminding this apprenticeship, so we'd love to hear more from you. And folks, as you listen today, there's a Q&A function at the bottom of the screen as usual. Please type your questions in. We'd love to pick as many of those up as possible in the Q&A session, which will take place at about 5:30. Thank you. Over to you, Danny.
Okay, Richard, thank you, and thank you for hosting us today. As Richard's mentioned, my name's Danny McPollan. I'm the Director of Civil Engineering at Queen's, and I have developed this new programme in collaboration with my colleagues Srijit Nanakutan and Tony Martin over the last 2 or 3 years. And we've worked really closely with industry in terms of trying to shape this programme into something that is needed. And for the university, it's a really exciting new journey for us. We recognise that there's a massive skills gap and that there's a shortage of civil engineers, and it's a real priority for the university. We know that education is changing, that there's the idea of traditional university and people attending full time, but there are also people who are keen and are focused on having a career and earning as they learn. And this is a new journey for us, and hopefully we'll be able to have a chance to talk to you about that a little bit. I would say that as we've talked to applicants who want to do civil engineering, there's interest in this programme, both from parents, from young people, and hopefully we'll have a chance to answer some of your questions today.
Sri.
Danny has given the rationale of why we developed the program, but I also will give you a bit more insight into how we developed the program. When we were developing a program, flexibility was our core theme. We wanted to give employers, it was co-developed with the employers, and so they were inputting into the modules that we teach, the way we teach, the number of hours, the interaction that they need with the cohort, with the class. So we had taken all of that on board, and then we decided to create a program whereby they will be here in certain weeks, underpinning their knowledge and learning in-house in our team, along with our regular undergraduate student and as a cohort. But at the other weeks, they will be learning remotely, allowing them the full flexibility. I'll give you the details as we present the details of the program.
Thanks so much for that, Sri. I look forward to hearing more from you later about the detail of the programme and what apprentices can expect to study. Danny, coming back to you for a second, this has been a number of years of your work, working alongside employers, getting all the necessary approvals from the university. Give us a bit of sense about why this programme has come to fruition.
Okay, so it's in response to what people want. So we're trying to give both employers and parents and participants an opportunity to study civil engineering. It's part of what we would call widening participation, where there's an opportunity to study at university, to come out with a professional degree, to be able to work as you study and have that protected study time and perhaps also that protected work time. And at the end of that, come out as a professional engineer who is approaching chartered status. Because of the nature of the program, it means that you will be gaining experience with a civil engineering firm as you go through it. You will be learning on the job, but you will also have an opportunity to come in and work with a cohort of your fellow apprentices in the university, interacting directly with staff and having that real sort of knowledge and learning community. So to me, it feels like it's the best of both worlds. But the icing on the cake is really that at the end of the program, as you leave with your degree, with your 6 years of work experience, approaching chartered status, that you've been paid as you go through the program. So that's highly attractive. So there's a lot to be said for that. And again, from the employer's perspective, I know Serena will touch on this, but we know that there's such a shortage of civil engineers around, and this is another opportunity for us as a university to try and provide those skills to industry. And it's an opportunity for people to enter the sector who may not otherwise be able to enter the industry or attend university in the normal way. So it's really an exciting opportunity and journey.
That's great, Danny, and yeah, really, really thankful having been involved in it alongside you. Really thankful to all your leadership in this and bringing this really exciting apprenticeship to fruition. Serena, hopefully your microphone is working. Can you hear me okay? And are you able to join us?
Yeah, I think so.
Great,
Sorry,
great,
I
super.
had a few issues there, but I resolved it nice and quickly.
Right, and in true engineering style.
Yeah,
So
find the right button just.
don't need to know how you worked it out, but you worked
Yeah.
it out. Serena, Design ID, we've been working, Design ID and Work Plus have been working together for the last few years, and we've seen you bring in more apprentices to your business. Can you say a little bit about the impact that that's had on the business and also on the apprentices?
Yes, so we have had apprentices through the Work Plus scheme for the past few years. We think it's a really important element, and that the apprentices form a really important part of our team, contributing members to the actual development of the work and the issue of it, and in turn that helps our business, and for us bringing in apprentices I think I understand that not all of them are going to be, that 18, 19-year-old, because obviously it's a big opportunity for other people who want to go back and learn as well and work at the same time and earn money. But there is this kind of like fresh 18-year-old coming in, fresh ideas. They're coming in, they're enthusiastic, and they keep everyone else on their toes. They're normally a bit more aware of social media, technologically advanced. We had one a year and a half ago who came in, and we were doing internal presentations, and after a month or so they started showing us how they were doing scripting, and it just completely blew our minds. We were like, oh, is this something we can actually use? And now we've kind of helped grow that kind of enthusiasm for that research and development, and we're really driving them and into something that they're really interested in. And it's helping our business as well, because they're interested in it, and from an engineering perspective, that's definitely something that we can utilize. So that's really great. And also I actually asked two of our apprentices before I came to this webinar, just to see kind of what type of work they're working on, are they enjoying it, and they're two of them are actually working in different teams, and they've both got kind of different projects. But one of them was saying that they started out with basic AutoCAD tasks, and now after a year and a half they're completing drainage and level drawings and design for different commercial buildings, and they've likely been involved in some bridge projects. and that's where they've gained most of their AutoCAD skills. And they're now also involved in like QA of a larger project that we have internally with TransLink. And then the other one is, working closely. They said that they really enjoy working closely with a diverse team, learning from different professional engineers, and also they've had the opportunity to engage in research and development projects, which is obviously the person that I mentioned earlier, and that they're using new design techniques, programs, and advancing technologies, and this exposure has really expanded their knowledge and also like fostered their creativity and problem solving abilities, which is great. So it's a win-win really for us, and yeah, it's really helped us kind of look across the board in terms of when we brought them in, what we needed to teach them. Some of them, had never been in the workforce before, and it gave us kind of, we looked across all of our teams in terms of what everybody was doing. We've created like more streamlined processes, and now we're going to be bringing in our new cohort, hopefully in September, October, of both apprentices and graduates. And we've got this kind of training set up now to be like, welcome to the world of work. This is how, you request annual leave, and this is all the different options that you have, and different opportunities and different teams. And yeah, so we're really looking forward to our new cohort coming in, hopefully. So it'll be great.
Great, Serena. It's so encouraging to hear that as an employer, you've matured, I guess, in a way. You look after apprentices, and you're learning along the way. So Serena alluded to the previous webinar. We ran a webinar at 4 o'clock today for employers, and she was telling us there that one of the apprentices came in straight out of school and all of a sudden was teaching people how they could use scripting to design things better. And so there we go, brand new, fresh ideas that are improving businesses for the good. That's what apprentices do. So when we think about civil engineering, it's a very technical subject, but Serena, you've mentioned there buildings, bridges. Civil engineers improve people's lives. That's basically what they do, but it is a very complex program. Sri, do you want to share a bit about what the apprentices will study across the duration? And be helpful if you could talk us through that. So we'll share a few slides, and that'll be helpful.
Certainly can. So just to give you a prelude to this, our regular program is a 3-year, regular B-Eng program is a 3-year program. Each year they will study 6 modules. So we've taken a similar structure, and to give only 3 modules a year, that itself, when you're working 4 days a week, it's a tight program. So we've stretched it out to 6 years. So you will see year 1 coming up now. So you will have 3 modules every year. So in the first year, the main focus is on getting the basics ready. So design will teach you how to draw things, how to communicate more than words, how to communicate using drawing. It's a core thing for engineers, how to draw things out in a more digital platform. So that's part of the design. You need to be aware of the materials that you work with. As engineers, we use the best of the materials so that we can make the structure leaner and better. So all of that will be learned in the first year, including surveying. You need to be able to quantify things. So surveying will teach you those skills. So that's all skill development on year 1. Year 2, we will start to get into some of the core subjects that Serena and Richard were talking earlier. So structures will come in, bridges and buildings and all of that at the basic level. And then hydraulics, handling water, anything related to water. And so that'll be under hydraulics. And one other subject is infrastructure characterization, a little bit of transportation in here, but majority of it is to be able to characterize the environment, characterize the structure, characterize the infrastructure, and get on with it. And year 3, you will see these underlying themes kind of starting to reinforce as we go along. Okay, so geotechnics, soil mechanics will come in year 3. And we've created a brand new module, which is very specific to the HLA. It doesn't exist anywhere else. It's modern methods of construction, digital technology. That's mostly because the industry needed that kind of new module coming in. It's a very challenging, but a new module that's brought in just for here. And design 2, which is repeating from design 1, but at a more advanced level, because compared to the first year, you've had a few years of experience, you'll be now going to advanced level. Then year 4, you will see some of the core themes coming back. So you will see structural mechanics, which is continuation of structures from year 2 to year 4. And civil engineering for changing environment is the environmental element of the module. So we teach about how to quantify the changes in the environment. What can we do to make the environment better? So that's in that. And here onwards, you'll start to see more and more project management related subjects coming in. So you have project management in year 4, and then year 5, you will have 2 other modules that are going into management. So you'll see whole life management, which is about managing old and existing structures to the maximum life that you can get. Geotechnics 3, which is continuation of Geotechnics 2. You need that underpinning knowledge in order to be able to go and design structures. And durability of structures is again on the management side of things, getting the best out of the remaining structures that we have. Year 6 is very unique. That year 6, you will have a core subject, structures 3, that's great. And then you also have a very unique industrial project where the project will be co-supervised by industry, and the topic of the project will be in your workplace. So the definition of the project itself will be made at the workplace. You bring the idea to us, we will provide one supervisor to support it. So it's an area that the apprentice will definitely thrive, because it's a project that they're already working and actively working. So that's roughly the structure of the program. And then if we look at how the program will be delivered, so a typical semester will have, so we're looking at a typical semester. So week 1 to 2 will be a remote learning session. So when I say remote learning, assume Fridays for now, okay? So you will have learning material a week in advance, which the new version of the old notes or old PowerPoints or whatever, but the new one is fully pre-recorded videos, small videos that'll be released a week in advance. And then on Fridays, you will have individual slots with the lecturer in charge in order to take you through some of the questions that are coming from the video, taking you through some of the examples and how to apply it. So we call it tutorials. So that'll be in week 1 and 2. And mostly for now, assume that it's on Friday. So it's 6 hours on Friday of direct contact time with staff, and a bit more video watching and learning, and any other exercises we're setting out during the week time. Now, week 3 is very unique in the sense week 3, we're bringing all the apprentices together in person at Queen's for a full week program, covering laboratory sessions, field work, tutorials, trainings, networking between the group, any personal tutor events, and any other events that you need to be going through to develop as a cohort, to develop as an individual. And the following weeks kind of replicate the structure of week 1 and week 1 to 3. So for example, week 4 onwards, you will have a more remote session. And then afterwards, week 8 again, you'll be back. We'll be back in person. And week 9 to 12 is obviously starting to gear up towards the revision. So this is a semester plan. You have 2 of these semesters, and then you will have more revision time and assessment time towards the end of the year. So that's the structure that we've developed with the industry. We believe this will give you more flexibility, because remote learning means you can be anywhere in the country. You could do any job in the country, but you just need to clock in on Friday to do that. So over to you, Richard.
Thanks, Sheree. That's great to see the detail, and I know a lot of those modules might not be familiar to those on the call today, but they certainly make up the majority of the needs of the industry. Serena, when you see those modules, you know, what are your apprentices actually going to do with that learning? Tell us about, you mentioned some of the projects your apprentices have been working on. What are your apprentices going to get up to in Design ID from September onwards?
So I suppose initially, yeah, there's always that kind of bedding in period. I know even in the actual, you know, that those first couple of weeks, it's the same thing whereby there's a bit of an introduction. I think it was Danny's slides maybe showed that. And then, you know, as an apprentice coming in, you're really, you know, you're sat down and there's proper training involved. And we're aware that apprentices are, you know, they're not coming in after the full after fully graduating. So there is a lot more, hands-on training required, and we're aware of that. And we actually like that, because that means that for us, people aren't coming in with habits that may take a while to, find down the line, whereby, they've been doing things maybe even in university in terms of like AutoCAD and drawing skills, and manipulating things that you don't really see on a page. And then these are the kind of habits that people pick up, and I know I did that as well whenever I was in university. And we as an apprentice, you're going to learn like the right way to do things from the bat, the way that industry is doing it, the way that we want, obviously, from design ID as well, the way we want all of our projects to go out, all of our drawings and issues, reports. They're going to be involved. The apprentices will be involved across all everything really. So from a QA perspective, you're introduced to the folder system, the structure, all of the technical folders. Every company across Northern Ireland or the world, we all have our own technical libraries, essentially, of where all the information is. You're taught that, you have access to that as well. I think one of the benefits would probably be as well that you actually have the benefit of having professional engineers to ask questions from while you're studying, whereas you don't really have that if you're in full-time um course. So you get that benefit of being like, oh, can I ask you a question here? We've also, actually, one of our apprentices, we do these kind of 10-minute um presentations weekly, on a bit of a rota. And one of them decided to give us a geotechnics quiz one day for 10 minutes, which was rather interesting, because it's good that we have people who are currently learning all of the current the curriculum, I suppose, again, that we all did 10, 15, 20 years ago. And that showed up some real clangers for us all. So we had a bit of fun with that. But yeah, so I mean, everyone who's here in the industry is aware that apprentices, they need to be taken from the start, but that's a benefit, we think, as opposed to a negative. And they'll be taught everything they need to know along the way, the same as everybody else does. Because as a after you graduate, if you did a 4-year course or a 3-year course and come out with that BEng, you're starting from the start, really, because you have to learn the companies, the way that they do everything. Whereas as an apprentice, you're coming in and you're learning that system as you go, and you're kind of fed it, and then you kind of live and breathe it, really, I suppose. Then as you go to you're released for that one day or that week, essentially, to go to university then, and do your studying, and then come back and obviously quiz everybody about it. So good.
Great. Well, it's good to see they're keeping you on your toes anyway.
Definitely.
And from our work, we've met hundreds of apprentices over the last few years, and when we ask them the question about, do you feel like you're missing out not going to university full time, they just laugh and say no, because I'm getting the best of both worlds, and my friends are all jealous of me because I don't have to get a job part time in the supermarket or bar or wherever to pay for my degree. And I'm actually working in something that is the start of my career. And it's really great to hear that this program's being developed, and employers like Design ID and hopefully many others will create apprenticeship opportunities so that more apprentices can apply this year. At this stage, Jen, maybe bring you in, and for those who are here today, maybe they don't know much about the Institution of Civil Engineers, but maybe just say a little bit about why ICE is here, and what value ICE brings to the apprentice and the employer. That'd be great.
Okay, so thanks, Richard. So ICE, Institution of Civil Engineers, is it's the world's leading civil engineering institution. It's a globally recognized professional body, 95,000 members across the world. So we are the voice of infrastructure, and we exist to support our members who are working in the profession. One of the key reasons why people would join the ICE is to gain a professional qualification one day. And at ICE, we qualify engineering technicians and civil engineers. And there are many reasons why you might want to become professionally qualified. It's independent recognition internationally of your skills and competencies, and it's also going to set you onto a successful career path and differentiate you from your peers. So many good reasons to get professionally qualified. It's pretty straightforward. There's commonly 3 steps. Step 1, gain some accredited academic qualifications, and with the degree apprenticeship at Queen's, that will accredit you for incorporated status of membership with the ICE. The next phase is normally gaining a period of work experience where you will gain skills and competencies and ability in a set of ICE member attributes. And step 3 then is when you're ready, you would apply for and sit a professional review and then hopefully be awarded your professional qualification. The beauty of a degree apprenticeship is that you're working and learning in tandem. So you're setting yourself on that journey towards professional qualification early on while you're still studying. And ICE, where we fit in, is to support those on the degree apprenticeship at Queen's, support your employers and apprentices, and to help you on a structured programme. Start to record and track your work experience so that progressively by the time you graduate, you will hopefully be moving on and obtain quite shortly after graduation your professional qualification. So we will support you with that, and progressively we have lots of resources which are all free. We will visit you in the workplace. We have webinars, guidance documents, etc., phone support, email support. So hopefully it will be a fairly smooth process to help you gain one day, hopefully, and all strive for professional qualification. Is that okay?
Yeah, great. Jen, thanks for that. And you know, the members of ICE can really testify to that it is a great network where individuals get together across company boundaries to really work together to help improve their overall competence. And as you mentioned, it is internationally recognized, which although we want our young people to stay and make a life here in Northern Ireland, you know, civil engineers have traveled the world and built the world. So it's great to know that that's an option for the apprentices beyond that initial apprenticeship. So just a reminder that we have a Q&A function and you can type your questions in there. We've had a couple coming in already and we'll pick those up in a few minutes. But what I wanted to do was just pick up on some of the potential next steps. You're here today, you've heard about this civil engineering higher level apprenticeship, but what's next? Well, there are a couple of pathways. Maybe you're here today and you've already found an employer. So that would be great if you've already been successful in becoming a civil engineering apprentice with the employer but haven't registered on the course. So really important that you go to Queen's University to the higher level apprenticeship page for civil engineering and apply online, and you do that. And then once that's done, you can relax, so you can finish your A levels or your BTEC or whatever exams you're doing, and then start the apprenticeship in September. If you haven't found an employer yet, there are two ways you might want to go. So at Work Plus, we run apprenticeship application campaigns. We did one in January and February earlier this year, and we hope to run another campaign in June. Now, that will be based on how many employers come on board for that. We always want to have live apprenticeships that you can apply for, and we'll be in touch over the next 2 weeks to confirm whether or not that's going to go ahead as we work with the employers to try and get them on board with that campaign. So if you apply through Work Plus and are successful in getting matched with a company, then again, you need to do that Queen's application, apply online, and then you can make a start. Now, if you also can find your own employer as well, and that's an option for you if you know somebody or you see an advert that and a company is looking for a civil engineering apprentice, you can do that straight away. And again, do that Queen's application and then make your start. So probably worth at this stage sharing the Queen's website just so you're all familiar with it. Thanks to Shree for dropping it into the channel there. So hopefully you can all see that. And it's a higher level apprenticeship in civil engineering, and you can see there that the entry requirements etc. modules that we've talked about today, and some of the other information about the course is also available there. So at this stage, I want to pick up on some of the questions that folks have entered with. So question there coming in from Maria. Entry criteria. So thanks, Sri, for picking up on that. The entry criteria is available on the website, and you can hopefully all click on that link now. And the application process. So Maria, you aren't able to make an application until you have an employer. So that's critical. The application form asks you to name the employer that you're connected with. And as I've said, in a couple of weeks' time, we hope to be able to offer you the chance to apply through Work Plus. And with that, another question coming in about what degree qualification will a student on the programme come away with. And Sri, you've confirmed there that it's a Bachelor of Engineering, BEng, as it's abbreviated to, with honours. And then they can progress on to other levels after that. There are 2 Master's apprenticeships available, MSc apprenticeships at Queen's in Construction and Project Management and BIM Project Management. And those could be a route beyond this initial apprenticeship. And how many days a week is the apprenticeship? Well, it's a job first and foremost, so 80% of it would be in work, and then roughly 20% would be set aside for studying. As Sri has mentioned, that would be on the Fridays, and then from every time to time there will be that block release where you'll be going to university for a number of days in a row. Okay, question, Fiona, very practical. I love this one. Can an apprentice live in halls in first year? Of course, yes, they can. Many apprentices do. Yeah, some live in halls up at Elms, or some live down in the city centre and some of the accommodation there. Some live in the Holy Lands with their friends, or outside Belfast, especially if you're working for an employer like Design ID. You might want to go and live in Hillsborough, which is a beautiful part of the world as well. So it really is up to you how you do that. You're going to have money in your pockets. You're not going to have to work a part-time job, so you can live wherever you like in that sense. Jared's asked here, is there a list of employers in Northern Ireland who are willing to interview prospective employees who can then apply to Queen's for a place on the HLA? Jared, that's a really great question. That's the reason why Work Plus exists, is so that we can make it easier for you to apply to apprenticeships. So we are hoping that in the next couple of weeks, we will have a number of employers that are creating these civil engineering apprenticeships that you can apply to. And that would be an option for you then to be interviewed by them, all being well, by early July, and then start that apprenticeship in September. So we'll be communicating that with all of you whenever that becomes a reality. Joel has got a question here about how many places are there, please. So Danny, maybe you could come in on that just to answer that one.
Sure. So it's our initially in our first year, our program will be funded by the Department for the Economy, and we've asked them for funding for 30 places. The DFE will confirm in June how many places they give us. So if you tune in 2 or 3 weeks' time, we should have confirmation about that. And I would say that is common to all HLAs throughout the country. Just the decision about funding comes out, and the number of places comes out in June. I would encourage early applications, because in terms of when you look at the application process, we rank them on sort of essentially first come, the order in which they are received. So if you have an employer, please get your application in.
That's great. Thanks so much for that, Danny. I've just dropped in a link there to a registration where you can put in your details to find out more about a potential civil engineering application campaign. So drop that into as a response to the question, which was answered a few minutes ago. So question coming in saying, if you were to complete 1 year of civil engineering as an undergraduate program and potentially full-time, could you then do an apprenticeship in your second year?
Okay, that's an interesting question. My suggestion would be to probably stay the course with what you're doing, rather than because there would be no natural exit point at the end of a first year. However, I actually see another question coming in on HNC. So if a person has a qualification, we can take that into account, and that qualification will gain them entry to the HLA at an appropriate stage. This is our first year running it. So in September, we will only have a year one. So we can only gain and provide apprentices entry to the first year. However, we do recognize that there will be people with experience, and we call that, we will recognize prior learning. So if somebody has been with an employer and they've learned how to do surveying or how to use AutoCAD and Sketch, or they've experience with construction materials, we can take that into account. And when we have a second year, we will be able to then allow them to enter directly into second year. And likewise, with other programs like HNCs or HNDs, we can also then, when we have a year two or a year three, take those previous qualifications into account. So it's probably a little bit premature for September 23, but certainly that's the intention, that we're going to be working with admissions to allow entry into an accelerated stage.
Thanks, Danny. To go back to the original question on if you've done first year, we've seen this in other degree programs, and technically there is a Department for the Economy is okay for it to happen going from, but the difficulty is practically that you may well have done some of the modules that you will redo then in that second year if you go into an apprenticeship, and that's where it really doesn't work, because you've maybe covered some of the modules in your first year of your full-time degree that you would then have to recover and again in the apprenticeship. So practically speaking, it isn't something that works. Okay, so if a student is currently on a pathway in engineering, yeah, so again, that sounds like a very similar question to the previous one, in that it's much better to go directly onto an apprenticeship rather than starting an engineering degree.
Richard, can I take that question?
Yeah, sure.
So the pathway program is our widening participation program as well. So those who are coming through the widening participation program will get the same benefits of any course across Queen's. So if you would have got benefit for a direct entry undergraduate normal full-time course, you will get the same benefit in the HLA program as well. And we're happy to answer any further questions that you have on that. But if you're through the pathway program, you get the same benefits in any course across Queen's.
Thanks, Sri. Thanks for stepping in on that one. That's great. Okay, a question coming in about underlying knowledge required in areas like AutoCAD, which is a computer design package, or is it all revisited within the first year? So Danny and Sri, maybe back to you for that one.
Okay, there's no underlying knowledge required. If you start in year one, we will cover all of that. However, what's more likely is that you will gain that experience plus a lot more with the employer. Different employers will have focus and work in certain sectors. So if you're with a contractor, you'll be an expert at surveying and you will be very advanced. Whereas if you're with a consultancy firm like Design ID, you'll be pretty good at sketching and AutoCAD. So there's no prerequisites or requirements before you enter.
Great.
I think I'll just jump in on that, Richard, as well, because I think I wouldn't like any apprentices to think that they have to have a specific knowledge. I think if you meet the entry requirements, that's all you need, because everything else, there's a lot of on-the-job learning, and there's a lot of time that goes aside to that.
Thanks, Serena, for that. And it's worth just reminding everyone as well, this is applying for a job with the company, that the criteria with Queen's is there, and there are very few prerequisites around prior learning or knowledge other than the entry criteria. But the employers do want to have a bar which is sufficiently low, because they recognize that this could be the first time you've been in work at all at 18, or it could be for a career changer who has no live experience of civil engineering. what they're looking for is appetite and willingness to learn. Thank you. So that's great. So we're coming to a close. We've got a couple more questions that we'll pick up before we finish. So a question here saying, I didn't complete level 3 civil engineering apprenticeship due to COVID, but I've been working as a civil engineer for 5 years and recently completed a level 4 qualification. Would this allow entry? So Danny, it probably comes back to your point earlier about the HNC, which would be a level 4 qualification. So
yes. So Lorcan, thanks for that. It's a really good question, and I'm sorry to hear about your experience there. Yes. So what if you come in with if you have a level 4 qualification in the future, when we have more advanced years, year 3, it's likely that you could enter directly at that point. So please, again, do stay in touch.
Great. And final question from Claire. It says, if you have 2 A levels in maths and technology with a third being in a BTEC in engineering, what grades are then needed for that particular mix of qualifications? You maybe don't have those off the top of your head, but I'm sure there are, the equivalency is on your website.
Yeah, that's a complex question. So what I would say, Claire, is thanks for that. Get in contact with us directly. We have an admissions team in Queen's who look at this in detail, and they will know the specific equivalents of BTECs and A levels and ASs, and they'll be able to work out, can't call it a tariff score, but they will be able to determine how all those different components fit together and tailor that for you. So what I would ask is if you can please get in touch, and there are real people behind the application process, and they will be able to respond to you directly. And so I don't want to give you incorrect information today, because you can see when you're on the website, it's quite a long list of potential routes into Queen's and onto the HLA.
Okay. The website link that Richard shared earlier and I shared as part of the answer has a contact in that main website. So contact us. Please use the contact us to, if you have a very specific question, and detail it so that people who are looking at it, especially admissions, they can give you an exact answer. That'll be quite fast.
Great. Kathy has stepped in there with a copy and paste from the website about the entry criteria. So, yeah, I think it's probably best to contact the as you've said, the admissions department and get some clarification around that. Fantastic. Okay, well, folks, we've come to the end of today's session. I really want to thank you for being here at the launch of this new civil engineering apprenticeship. And it's a great opportunity to hear from Danny and Sri from the university's perspective, from Serena's perspective as an employer, and also to hear from Jen about how this can be part of a wider offer of professional qualification, which could take apprentices ultimately across the world. It's been great to have your questions. Thank you for those. And as I mentioned, please sign up on the forum, which I've just shared. That'll allow us to be in touch with you about a potential apprenticeship application opportunity in June. So all that remains for me to say is thank you again for your time and have a great evening.